Levi here, the outdoor cowboy, and today we got coal for Christmas. Just kidding. Welcome back to the Outdoor Cowboy YouTube channel, and today we're going to be making some charcoal and some char cloth for fire starters. We're going to be talking about why they work, what you need to make them, and how they can be used. So hopefully Santa doesn't bring you coal for Christmas, but let's jump into making some charcoal and saddle up for the ride. Alright, like I said, today we're going to be making some charcoal and some char cloth. And the first thing we got to talk about is what is charcoal. And for me, I think the short answer is basically that charcoal is a purified version of wood. It definitely doesn't look like it because it looks like it's already burnt, but we're getting out all the imperfections to make a really pure version of wood that'll burn super well. And because charcoal and char cloth are purified, that means that they burn super well, they'll burn super hot, and they can work as great fire starters. The char cloth that we're going to be making, we'll talk about how it can be used as a fire starter. And that fire starter technique is actually taught in special operations training. And then the charcoal that we make can be used for a ton of things. We'll talk about how it can be made into a fire starter if you want to, or it can be used as fuel for really hot fires. I think one of the best examples for using charcoal for its characteristics is in a forge. Obviously in a forge, you need it to be super hot. You're trying to soften metal so that it can be malleable, it can be bendable, it can be shapeable, anything like that. So you need it to be super hot. And because charcoal already has all the imperfections burned out, it will burn super hot and super clean and make it so you can actually forge metal. So that's pretty cool to know that the things that we're going to be making today are super simple, but have really cool uses. But we'll dive more into what charcoal is and kind of why it works as we make our charcoal. So stay tuned for that. And if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button for family-friendly outdoor videos, and let's jump into making our charcoal. And luckily to make our charcoal and our char cloth, it's pretty simple and requires very few things. The first thing is going to be some sort of metal container that you can put a lid on it, but you can poke a hole in the top. So I thought it was only right with Christmas time that we got a Christmas cookies box for our charcoal. And then we're going to be using an Altoids can for our char cloth. And these are both just great because they can completely seal with the lid over them. We can put a bunch of stuff inside and then we can poke a hole in the top. But this exact process that we're doing today to make charcoal can be done on any scale. I've seen people, instead of using a tin like this, use a 55-gallon drum and make a ton of charcoal. So depending on how much you need, you can adjust the size, but I just thought this Christmas cookies box was pretty sweet with a cool truck on there, so this is what we're gonna use to make our charcoal. All right, and then each of our things only have one more ingredient. So to make charcoal, we just need some wood. And you can get different sizes and shapes, whatever fits best for you. We got pretty small stuff because we're going to be making rounds that fit in our cookie tin, which isn't very big, and we want to be able to get a bunch of pieces out of it. But if you're doing it in a big drum or on a bigger scale, then you can do full logs, anything like that will work just fine. And in reality, these can even be fresh cut branches if they're still wet, because all the moisture and sap inside of them will be burned out in the process of this. My wood's been sitting for a while because I found it behind one of our sheds. So mine's already pretty dry, but the process will be the exact same. It might just take a little bit longer. And I think that any sort of like natural wood like this will work best. I've never tried any sort of like compressed wood, like particle board or anything like that. I have no idea if that would work, but I would just recommend using natural branches and logs like this. And any type of those will work. But if you are able to get a harder wood, then it will be able to make a little bit denser charcoal that will last for longer and burn a little bit better. So that's for our charcoal, and then for our char cloth, all we need is a cloth t-shirt. And this is just a 100% cotton t-shirt. That's the important thing. This one's just one I've had for a super long time and I don't wear anymore, so I don't mind cutting it up to make some awesome char cloth. So that's what we need to make our charcoal and our char cloth. Now let's get cutting up our wood and our shirt to fit inside these tin cans. And then the last thing we got to do is poke a hole in the top, and we'll talk about why. And then we're going to start a fire and get these thrown in, and then we're just about done. There we go, just like that. We got a handful of pieces cut. And these by no means have to be perfect. You can really just cut them however. Just having pieces that pretty much take up the whole container, and then just a decent amount of them. And we'll just stack them like this and toss them in. And then like I said, the last thing is we're gonna poke a hole in the top. And once we get these thrown in the fire, we'll talk about why we do that. But it's just gonna be for ventilation, and we're gonna see smoke coming out, and that's how we're gonna know it's working. All right, we got our charcoal bin ready and our char cloth ready. They both look awesome. Like I said, with the char cloth, just a bunch of 100% cotton. And this one you can really do however many you want as long as they fit in there. But I probably did 10 pieces or so, and that'll be perfect for us. But then with our charcoal, I really like to pack these things in there. So I got a bunch of different sizes of wood just to fill in the gaps and stuff. You don't want like a huge piece in the middle and then a bunch of tiny pieces around the outside. So mine are all pretty close to the same, but I just wanted to make use of the space the best that I could. And then like I said, we poked holes in the top of both of these, and that's gonna be our ventilation. And how this works is we're gonna throw these into a fire. So they're obviously gonna be super hot. They're gonna have coals below them and flames all around them. And it's gonna start to burn the stuff inside of our bin. In my very first video, I talked about how to start a fire, and we talked about how we need air, spark, and fuel. So our fuel is in there. It's gonna have spark because it's gonna be all around it, but our hole is gonna be limiting the air. And that's gonna be the point of how this works. So having just a tiny hole and having the rest of the box sealed creates a really low oxygen environment inside of it. So that's how our wood itself doesn't actually burn. And just the imperfections like sap or water, anything like that gets burned out of the wood, and what's left is just a pure carbon wood, which will burn super well. So that's your little science lesson for how charcoal is made. It's super cool that we create a low oxygen environment and it only burns the things we don't want in our wood to make charcoal, which that's why I said at the beginning of the video that charcoal is like a purified wood, because it has volatiles and imperfections, things that are burned out. And that's what we're gonna see coming out of our hole in the form of smoke. And that's how we know it's gonna be working. And then basically when the smoke stops coming out, that means we're done, and then we're gonna let it cool off. So let's get a fire going, and then we're gonna toss these in, and we're just about done. All right, we got just a simple log cabin built with some of our homemade cotton ball and Vaseline fire starters in there. And then to start our fire, we're gonna be using my ferro rod, which I love this thing. It just works super well, and it's just super consistent in any condition. Ferro rods like this are awesome because obviously they have the ability to create sparks. But then on the other side, they also have a mix of precious metals. One of them is magnesium, which magnesium burns, and when it burns between 4,000 to 6,000 degrees, which wood burns at about 1,000 degrees. So it's super awesome. It works great for starting fires if you need to in certain conditions, and it burns super bright. So I just love this thing, and I pretty much start all my fires with it. All right, we got a pretty good fire going here. We're gonna have to keep stoking it just to keep it going for a while. Our char cloth's not gonna take very long, but our charcoal, this will probably have to burn for anywhere from 30 to 45, maybe even a little bit longer than that, just to get all the imperfections out to make us some good charcoal. But you just watch the smoke coming out of there. Once the smoke stops coming out, then that means it's pretty much ready. So we'll get this tossed in there in the fire. We just have some early coals forming, but we're gonna have to have this fire going for a while, so it should work great for us. All right, we got a great fire going, and you can just see this steady stream of smoke coming out of our tin. That just looks perfect. Our Altoids had a flame on top, which looked great as well, just burning some of the vapors that are coming out. So it's looking great. We'll just let it burn for a little while longer, and we should have some great stuff. All right, our char cloth only took a few minutes, so we're gonna let that cool down for a while. And then we're still getting a pretty steady stream of smoke coming out of our tin for our charcoal, but it's definitely slowing down, so I think we're pretty close. We'll let that burn for a few minutes, and then we'll pull it out to let it cool as well. Let them cool for probably about an hour. We want to make sure that they cool almost completely back down before we get them out, start touching them, stuff like that. But it's coming together awesome. All right, we've been letting this burn for a while, and we no longer have smoke coming out, so we're gonna pull this out and then let it sit for a while. We got to run somewhere, so we'll probably be gone for a couple hours, but that'll be perfect. Can't let it cool for too long, and then when we're back, we'll come check on it. So looking awesome. All right, and just like that, our charcoal and our char cloth are all cooled down, and they're all done. You can sort of see the outline of a truck here, and a little bit the letters of the Altoids there. So obviously these things get super hot in the fire, and it pretty much burned off all the designs, but that's what you need to be able to burn all the volatiles and imperfections off the bottom. So let's crack these open and see what they look like. Here's our char cloth. It just looks awesome. You can see obviously our shirt used to be blue and now it's black, and it's just perfect. It burned everything out, so this is just an incredible fire starter. It burned everything out, so these look awesome. And here's our charcoal. It looks awesome as well. Just looks perfect. It's crazy just how light the wood gets when everything's burned out of it. All the liquid, all the sap, all the water, anything like that. And you're just left with super purified, just a really nice carbon rich wood that'll just burn super well. So just super awesome. Both of these were super successful and just turned out great. It's just super awesome. Both of these turned out great. And it's pretty low effort to make something that can have a lot of uses and can help you a lot. Once you get either the cloth or the wood cut up, placed in the tin container, you get a good fire going and throw them in there. Mine was in the fire for about 30 minutes, and I just watched them until it was pouring smoke out like you saw in the video. Once the smoke stopped, I'd pull them out, let them cool for a little while. And you want to let them cool because if they're too hot when you grab them, they lose some of their structure. So when they cool, they get hard again, and then they can be really useful. But I'm just super happy with how they turned out. These will be awesome for us, and we'll definitely be able to use them for stuff in the future. Real quick before we wrap it up, we'll just talk about the uses. So here we have our char cloth, which honestly just looks like a black shirt now. Used to be a blue shirt and now it's black, but it feels definitely different than cloth, and we know we burned all the imperfections out of it. And this stuff is just super flammable, just works as an incredible fire starter. If any sort of spark or flame touches this, it's gonna light right up and act as a great fire starter. It's gonna burn pretty hot, and for a little while, just to be able to get the rest of your fire started. So this is just awesome. And like I mentioned, char cloth just like this, along with flint and steel, is one of the fire starting methods that's taught in special operations training in the military, which is super cool. And it's just because this works super well. Char cloth like this is super flammable, and if you got a consistent way to make a spark, this can be an awesome fire starter. And then finally onto our charcoal. Just looks awesome. We just got some great pieces of charcoal in here that have a ton of uses that we could use for a bunch of different things. So it's just awesome. And one of the best things about charcoal and char cloth like this is this can be its final form. Obviously, like you saw, we didn't do much. It's pretty low effort. I just came and stoked the fire, threw some more wood on it every once in a while, and just had to watch the smoke, check on it every few minutes. So if I wanted to use it just like this could make us a super hot fire, whether I want to forge something, cook something, or I'm trying to treat cast iron, anything like that I just need a hot fire for. This can just be perfect, just exactly how it is. So that's super cool. But a cool thing about charcoal is you can also soak it in stuff and make a better fire starter. So similar to other fire starters that we've made with like cotton balls or cardboard, how we've soaked it in like wax or Vaseline, you can do the same thing with charcoal like this, and it can make an awesome fire starter. And I think that's probably what I'm gonna do. We have bees here, and we just cleaned out one of the hives and got a ton of this beeswax. And I think I want to melt this down and put it in some charcoal to make a cool all natural fire starter. I think that'd be pretty sweet. And if I did one of those big chunks, soaked it in beeswax, it would last for, I would guess, 10 or 15 minutes and just be super hot. Be a great way to start a fire. And it's just super light, which is just awesome. So just like that, that's how you make charcoal and char cloth. As well as we talked about some of the ways you can use it, how you make it, and why it works as well as it does. So just super cool, really fun project. That's just super easy to do, but also make something that can be really useful. And maybe coming up here after Christmas, you'll have a bunch of empty cookie tins that you can make charcoal out of. So maybe this could be a great project for you here in a couple weeks. But I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for coming along while we make some charcoal and some char cloth, and I hope you learned something new. Thanks so much for watching and all the support. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next video. If you liked this video, make sure to check out the Outdoor Cowboy YouTube channel. We've got new videos every week, survival adventures, camping projects, tool restorations, and a whole bunch more. Hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.